Hello everyone, my name is Matt Scorpion and welcome back to the reset with the last week of the season, the last week of Guardian games, the last week of lots of opportunities in terms of the season. Now, going forward, I'm just going to say this is going to be an all-in-one reset with the Eververse. There's not going to be a separate video, so if you want to know Eververse, stick around. I will eventually get to it, but getting in with the details of the reset. So, like every year when the last week is upon us, all three of our rotation activities, Vanguard, Gambit, and Crucible, is all boosted boosted rank. So, if you wanted to get through anything and just get the bonus ranks done, and you didn't have a lot of time and you didn't think you were, this is a last chance for it. This is the last chance for all three of them. There should be boosted Vanguard ranks, there is boosted Gambit ranks, and boosted Crucible ranks, all for the last week of the season. So if you wanted to hunt anything that was related to the quest vendors, like Eclectic Distaff's ornament, Eclectic Distaff itself, any shaders or anything that's unique from the vendors this season, this is probably going to be last chance for a while to get your hands on them. But speaking of vendors, currently in terms of the weekly Nightfall weapons, now the one available this week is the Swarm Adept. Now I will warn you all, the Mindbender's Ambition and Malicious Birthright, they are still earnable via focus decoding, but they are no longer going to be dropping from rotation. They'll be taken out of net rotation next season. What that means is they will no longer drop directly from Nightfalls. They will not be in this menu. They will be in the Legacy Gear tab. You can still get the base weapons to drop from this for a little bit more money. You can earn either Militias or Mindbenders, but both of them will no longer be earnable as Adept variety. The two new guns introduced next season will be the new Adepts, and we will not see the Adept version of those for a long time. If you did not earn them, I am sorry, they are no longer available, but just as a heads up, those will also be leaving this rotation, be going to Legacy next season. But speaking of strikes, our rotation for the Guardian Games competitive actually takes us to the Devil's Lair for the competitive playlist, which actually isn't half bad. It's a pretty decent strike and should be pretty competent farming. There's lots of yellow bars and lots of bigger things, so hopefully it keeps the points up for the last week of Guardian Games. But then, in addition to everything else throughout the world, going to the Vanguard, our current available strike is in the EDZ for Lake of Shadows. So if you wish to go for Ciphers or Swarm Adept naturally, unfortunately you have one of the hardest GMs of the season to go for, or at least one of the harder, well, I don't know if it's harder, but at least more tedious. And the modifiers for it are all three Elemental Shields, Unstoppable, and Barrier Champions. Incoming Arc Threat for increased arc damage incoming. Grandmaster modifiers of the usual. Then we also have Scorched Earth for enemies throwing more grenades. Then Limited Revive is Extinguished, Chaff for no radar, and our variety of seasonal overcharge weapons with a Void Surge, a Strand Surge, and an Overcharged Machine Gun. So, if you have a commemoration, I'd recommend pulling that out. And then, and like I said, you will be getting the Swarm Adept, but this is the last week of Grandmasters. Now, I know power is going to be the same, so you think Grandmasters will be right off the bat next season. There's still a brief waiting period for next season Grandmasters, of course, but getting into the rest of the world. Skipping over Gambit because there's nothing new. We still have for our rotations, there is Clash, Control, Competitive as usual, and Supremacy is still our rotator thingy because of the event. So unfortunately, if you want to get into any Mayhem, Momentum Control, or Team Scorched, sadly, we will not be getting any of those because Guardian Games just took over and Supremacy is here. Now, granted, Supremacy will likely be leaving us, so I get why, but at the same time, I would like to stop playing Supremacy. But then throughout the world, now on our rotations. So in terms of our raid, the current farming raid is currently King's Fall. So Master Mode is currently available as well, with all challenges active. So if there's anything you wish to farm specifically, whether it be Adept Gear or Discipline-focused armor, or even Touch of Malice by farming Oryx over and over again, now is the time. However, at the same time, I don't think they are retroactively enhanceable like they are in Roots just yet. But if you wanted to get your hands on a few of them, now is the time for that. The modifiers included are being all challenges, arc and solar shields, master modifiers, mob champions, or just champion foes in general, then our usual seasonal overcharges, void, strand, and sniper rifle overcharge. So there you go. And in terms of our farming dungeon this week, it is actually Grasp of Avarice. Now granted, the exotic from this one is not farmable, but Ice Luna, all the legendary weapons, they are also farmable, as well as Artifice Armor. So if you actually want to get your hands on some decent Artifice Armor, now is also a good time for it. Be warned, of course, Master is no joke. If you actually have to farm, you have to have the gusto to do it. Then, in terms of the raids for the rotation start to finish. So, going to the Dreaming City, the current challenge for the Last Wish raid is Strength of Memory, which, if I recall, is actually Riven Challenge. And then to Garden of Salvation, currently the active challenge is Leftovers, which I think is First Encounter Challenge with the Leapfrog. And then from there we go to Europa for the Deepstone Crypt, and currently it is Of All Trades, Third Encounter. Basically, every player has to do every role in that raid. That one's an annoying one. And then to Vault of Glass for the current raid, or it's Wait For It, which, if I recall, is Conflux Challenge, the First Encounter Challenge. Well, air quotes, First Encounter, which is basically just don't kill the wyverns until they are already sacrificing. Then, lastly, going into the Throne World for Vow of the Disciple, we have Swift Destruction, which is First Encounter Challenge. Basically, you have to kill all of the abominations within a few seconds of each other to complete challenge mode of this one. And then going into Neptune for Root of Nightmares. Now, as the season goes over as well, Root of Nightmares will still be the primary raid. So keep in mind, if you still want to farm this one for Pinnacles, this one is it, and Master will still be available all next season until the season after that. Now, it is All Hands Challenge, which is, Nezarec Challenge currently, if you wanted to actually go for that. And, of course, the Master Mode is Brazilian's Focused Armor, with the active challenges being all three Elemental Shields, Barrier Unstoppable Champion, Seasonal Overcharge, Void, and Strand Surge, again, with overcharged shotguns. So, Conditional Finality might be OP in this one now. Then, from there, like I said, this will still be the Pinnacle raid, so if you wish to farm it for Pinnacle drops, or the current active raid, let's say, that is it. Will be rotating out, however, is basically Spire the Watcher. That will no longer be the Pinnacle for dungeons. The next dungeon that comes out will be the new Pinnacle, so if you need to farm Spire for anything, now is the time, especially for Pinnacles. Then, at that point, that is everything rotation-wise throughout the year. So, like I said, seasonal event has wrapped up. Everything is good there. So, lastly, the last defined battlegrounds of the season is in the active Cosmodrome. So, we should farm anything out of there, they go for it. Now, the season is not going to be disappearing. The only things that will be really disappearing is going to be the seasonal of Defiant seasonal challenges. So a lot of the stuff that gives XP or just Bright Dust will be gone. However, anything that is required for seasonal progression will stay. So a majority of these will go away, but if there's anything you haven't finished up that requires for season progress, don't be afraid, that one will actually still be here when the season rolls over, just in case. Now, in terms of the rest of the world for Eternity, currently in that, the Legendaries of Eternity rotation is taking Cabal and Zydron for Legendaries. Now, I forgot to mention something. On Neptune, in our rotations, is currently the Vex Incursion Force is currently in Ahimsa Park, which also means that is the partition ordnance, which is that annoying one where Sam is bumping you out of the way the entire time. And in addition to that, our current rotation is on the Terminal Overload of Liming Harbor, which will go around all three locations throughout the week. And our weekly farming mission is the Downfall mission, which is basically the go into Callus' ship and look for the radial mast. It was first mission, but now it is on third mission, or at least I think this is third mission. But moving away from all of that. Now, that is pretty much everything with the reset. Like I mentioned, Guardian Games is still a thing. Titan's still, I believe, currently in the lead, and at the time of recording, in the lead for the day as well. So, whoop to that. But, you know, moving forward with the rest of the things. Now, for Banshee as well, we have, for our current available weapons, Whispering Slab, which is a lightweight kinetic bow. From Season Rivals, no origin trait, so it's still kind of outdated, but with Quick Draw not being great, Unrelenting is a good option. But this is the surfboard. Of course, if you wanted the knockoff or the original Whistler's Whim before it was a Trials weapon, there is that. Now, we also have Judgment of Kelgaroth, which I've seen a lot in this front page, I'm not gonna lie. Like, literally none of the other Seraph weapons have ever been up here other than Judgment, so that's possibly an issue. But this roll is pretty good for the ability. Pugilist plus Wellspring is pretty much the I want to be mailing everything and also keep everything else in line. But I will also recommend that this one you get in your inventory and just buy a few, because when you can manually activate Deep Sight, that is how you're going to be able to unlock this in the terms of the crafting, so you can pick what rolls you want. Then we also have Cold Denial, which is Zen Moment, pretty solid on a high impact frame, especially with the kind of kick they have. Sympathetic Arsenal, not great though. I would recommend getting something else on this gun first. Then Budokasi, another sidearm. Threat Detector 1 for All is a pretty solid roll, but of course it's still a sidearm, only really great in Crucible. And Falling Guillotine, while this roll ain't great, pretty much on, well, actually, nope, no. There's better Falling Guillotines. Wait until this one resets its roll. And then in terms of our main page items, we have Rag Hill D, an aggressive frame kinetic hockey shotgun. Which this shotgun is pretty much, I know you don't see me use it a lot, but this was the main thing I was using for a majority of Witch Queen and Season of the Haunted. Once you get this thing crafted, it is a beast, so get your hands on it and craft it if you must. Then as well, Jiraraka, which this roll ain't great because of gut shot's not that great, but this is also one of those scout rifles that I feel like can be OP from Headstone to Golden Tricorn, 4 times the Charm Focus Fury. This one can do anything from damage buffs to elemental builds. And then you also have a Vision, which is an Amalon Burst Fire sidearm with full auto, elemental capacitor. I would imagine this is a good one for Crucible, because, I mean, that's the only place these things really shine, so there you go. Now, the Ikelos Hand Cannon, I can't, for the life of me, actually recommend anyone get this. Seraph rounds are great. Adaptive Munitions is great. The Sarah Rasputin's Arsenal is great in conjuncture, but it's still a vertical frame hand cannon. I love the look of it, but I can't actually say make it. If you want to throw your hand at it, of course, buy the ones you need for manual deep sight activation. But aside from that, I can't really endorse it. But I can endorse Typhon. Now, Unrelenting is pretty solid in case you're in the garbage. But Explosive Light is also great just because, well, it's Explosive Light. It's basically what you want on Wendigo. If I recall, it was like Autoloader Explosive Light is really good on it. Plus, being a stasis one, that can apply a little more to your stasis setups as well. Although the mag perks are to be desired. And now, I will also warn people, Marcelian Sea, I don't know if this is just me, but I haven't been able to get this thing to drop red border. I don't know what it is about it. But when manual deep sight comes around, I think you only need one, so I'd recommend that people keep one of these in your inventory until next season. Let's see, let me check with it. Oh wait, too far. Grenade launchers. Yeah, you literally only need one. It just has refused to drop for me. I don't know if that's anyone else. According to my friends, yeah, that's how it's been going. But yeah, keep that in your inventory if you actually want to craft it. Now, I will move into Eververse and all of that now because that is what we need to get into, and I will also cover the shaders that Eva has afterwards. Now, on the front page, now I will also warn people, this is last chance for a lot of these stuff. Anything seasonal will still be available from Bright Dust, but it is completely random whether or not they are. However, in after Season of the Deep, whatever season is after that, they will be rolled into the archive. So if you don't know, basically, when a season ends, all of its activity, or all of the stuff in the main page will be taken away for a bit, but then after a bit will be added to the archive. Like, currently we have everything from Season of the Plunder that came out in the archive. In addition, like, for instance, the Nightly Noir, that was available during Season of Plunder. And the Wolf Kiss is still there, but that's just because it's a sponsored sort of thing. We'll see the Seraph ornaments in the store next season. But, getting back on track, all of this will be available in the archive soon, but if you wanted anything specifically, whether it be armor ornaments, weapon ornaments, emotes, anything that you specifically will want, I recommend buying them before they disappear, because they will be pretty hard to get access to until, well, unless they randomly come about. Now, same thing with Guardian Games stuff. If you wanted anything Guardian Games, this is the last week to get your hands on anything from here. Any ornaments, any armor sets, anything related to emotes, exotics, anything. If you want any of this, it will be leaving the store by the end of the month, and they will not be back until the next Guardian Games. This will not be available in the Bright Dust areas. If you want any of this, you have to get it before Guardian Games ends. Now, that is not a maybe, that's a definite. Once Guardian Games ends, all of this is going away. But at the same time, on the front page, for our rotation stuff, we have Vibrant Medusa, a shader from Season of the Worthy. Pretty bright, and I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty solid in its green, and I kind of like the way it looks with my setup right now. Then we also have Photo Finish, which, if I recall, is the RGB shader. Yep, this is the RGB. Once again, if you wanted access to the Rainbow Color Changer shader, this is that one. This is the last week you'll be able to get it, so if you don't get it while you can. Then we also have the Contenders Entrance, which is just another transmat of the Guardian Games emblem. And we have the Triple Bogey Vehicle, which, if I recall, yep, that's the golf cart Sparrow, if you wanted to have a kind of another joke Sparrow. Which permanently says we're at 158 whatever units of speed we have. That's weird. We also have the Torchlight emote, which is, well, you know, it's lighting a torch and then just kind of standing there awkwardly with the torch and then not doing anything else. So, not really an exotic worth, but, you know, it's there if you want it. And then into our flare, we have Verdant Chrome, which I think we've already talked about once before, but it's basically a Luck of the Irish look if you ever wanted it. Nice metallic greens, nice golds, and I'm not gonna lie, it looks pretty good on conditional finality too. But of course, we can't shade our exotics. Then we also have Verdant Crown, which is something I think a little more... Yep, it's basically the same thing with some relocation, but essentially the same kind of pop, in case you were looking for it. We also have Rivalry Black Sand, which I think we've seen it a few times. It's a pretty sleek look, I'm not gonna lie. But I don't know if this exactly fits with some looks. It's hard to say. I'm liking what it does, but I don't know if I'm gonna use it, if per se. We also have Grayscale Undergrowth from Season of the Dawn, which is basically a... Well, you look at it. You look like you're rocks. And then we have Cherry Blossom Entrance, which is another blue rarity transmat they made purple and recolored for the sake of reusing. And we also have the Rasputin reboot, which is one of the popular transmats. I think I still see it nowadays from all the people who got it. It's basically just a spawn in Rasputin style back from Warmind. And a repeat in the form of the Contender's Entrance again. And then for our main ticket items on this week, we have the Gladiator Blows emote. Now, be warned, this one is brand new. This is one of the things that just came around this season, and it's kind of funny. So, if you wanted to ever beat the crap out of your friends in emotes, there you go. And we also have the Powerlift emote, which I believe was available... Oh, wait, no, this is a different one. But if you wanted to actually look like you lifted weights instead of just being, you know, a memer, there you go. You can do a power lift if you so wish. And we have a Ghost Shell, the Tug of War Shell. This one's brand new. It basically looks like you're trying to draw and quarter your Ghost Shell with it. It's... Wow. I just realized how dark this is. You're literally pulling your Ghost Shell in two. And we also have the Pistol Rose, which is a Sparrow from last year's Guardian games. There was a big thing about sponsorships in the last season. But it has one of the cooler trails in the Invisible Fire, but still pretty bright. Still pretty good looking, though. Don't know if I'll use it, though. And we have Victory's Herald, which is another Sparrow, which I think this one was 2 years prior. It has that look, but it almost reminds me of a mosquito. But like I say with the Guardian game stuff, you can't get rid of any of the emblems, and they're forced to stay in those color schemes, patterns, so it's hard to like them when they're meant to look like an event, but then not really change that. And we also have the Triumphant ornament for Heir Apparent, so if you didn't like any of its basic looks, I know the only ones that have come out have really been the one Cabal look in this one, but if you don't like the basic black, or you don't like the Regal Gold, you can at least dance it up to make it look Guardian games. And lastly, as always, and definitely least, a Ghost Projection in the form of a little trophy emblem. Now, it's down to Ada to see what she has in terms of her transmat, or that's not the right, in terms of her shaders. While we're on the run down here, keep in mind as well with Ada and her cosmetic transmog bounties, I believe they reset seasonally, so if you wanted to grind out the transmog bounties to make sure to get your hands on as many of the bounties for each class as you can, I would recommend doing it. You can complete 10 of these per class, up to 30, and that will allow you to build up on some transmog before season ends, and they reset. It's use or lose, people. Then as well, we have the Envious Touch Shader, back from Season of the Arrivals, Season 11. Which, it looks spooky. If you wanted a dark style Guardian, this is one of the shaders on the way to doing it. But the gold glow kind of takes away from it. And we have the Echoes of Io, which is basically one of the simple looks. It's a basic color scheme. Wouldn't really recommend it for anything more than somebody trying to shader one specific piece of armor. And we also have Dead Orbit Vision, which I think we've seen multiple times this season. But nonetheless, if you so wish, it's kind of a mess of blacks, whites, golds, and greens. So, if you have a set, go for it. If you don't have a set that's completely mismatched like mine, I wouldn't. It kind of hurts to look at. But that is everything for the reset Eververse. The reset and basically the end of the season wrap up. Now, like I say, when the season ends, not a lot is actually disappearing. We're just going to get a rotation. Spire is not going to be the pinnacle dungeon anymore. We're going to probably still have the same raid. Things might develop a little bit more in the season, of course, so we might have new pinnacle sources. But if I recall, they actually mentioned some pinnacle sources are going to be deteriorating in the form of more exotic sources for people that want to farm exotics in the world more. But aside from that, Guardian games will be ending at the end of the week. So as well, if you wanted to get to actually finish your title and get access to Reveler, which if you don't remember, hang on, let me try and say this again. Reveler if you wanted to get access to it, this is the last one you need for it. I don't think you can repeat, like, I don't think you can do Dawning next year, but basically, if you want to complete this, you gotta do a little bit of work into Champ, earn that title, and do that. You don't have to guild it, just gotta get it. But aside from that, my name is Matt Scorpion, and I will see you in the next video.